Hello, Nolan, my wife Veronica. We're going to jump into the 9th chapter of Judges. We already went over the life of Gideon, kind of gave our opinions on him and our feedback and did a character comparison. But I just want to go over Judges 9. This goes with Abimelek, which is his son. So we mentioned in the last chapter that Gideon's son Joash died, and he also had a son Abimelek with his concubine. And Abimelek's name meant "my father the king," so it kind of shows Gideon's pride that we were talking about in the last chapters. And anyway, he had 70 sons, so this son was raised in Shechem, probably away from his father with his concubine, and there's probably a lot of distrust in that family, a lot of kids. I mean, who was the favorite? You have 70 kids. Who was the middle child? You got 35 and then you got a middle child somewhere.
That's a lot of kids.
It probably felt kind of messed up. But anyway, start with Judges 9. Abimelek, son of Jerubbaal, went to his mother's brothers in Shechem and said to them all and his mother's clan, "Ask all the citizens of Shechem, which is better for you, to have all 70 of Jerubbaal's sons to rule over you, or just one man? Remember, I am your own flesh and blood." So he came up with a plan where he decided to go to his family and was like, look, there's going to be a huge graph for power. There's a huge vacuum because Gideon had died. So now he's trying to take advantage of this. He's trying to rally up as much of his family and get support as he can. He basically tells them, like, look, if you could have them as the one who rules over you, you could have me who's your family, flesh and blood, and I'll be kind to you and I'll do things for you. So it's kind of like a political thing where you kind of use it to your advantage. And so the people really like that, because it says, when the brothers repeated all this to the citizens of Shechem, they were inclined to follow Abimelek, for they said, he is related to us. They gave him 70 shekels of silver from the temple of Baal Berith, and Abimelek used it to hire reckless scoundrels who became his followers. So he went and hired reckless. In other translations, it's worthless. These are bad dudes. I actually watched a video on like the breakdown of the money, and I think it turned out like if he hired 30 people in modern day money, they would have got $10 a pop. So they're going to do some evil for $10. That's the kind of people they are. They're sitting around. They're probably thinking of evil all the time. And somebody says, well, I'll give you $10. They're like, I would have done it for free, but I'll take that $10. It's just an excuse for them to let out what they're holding on the inside. And that's true with us too. Like when you hold a lot of bad things into your heart, it's really easy to be tempted to do those things. Like when you're constantly thinking of something in your mind, you're storing it up in your heart. Finally, the opportunity comes for it to come out. And a lot of times you just beeline for it, or it's like you've already predestined yourself in your head almost because you're prepared for it. So when the time comes, you jump on board with it. Anything with that?
No, it's great.
Yeah. And these guys jumped at that chance to do it. So he went to his father's home in Ophrah, and on one stone murdered his 70 brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal. But Josham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, escaped by hiding. Then all the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo gathered beside the great tree at the pillar in Shechem to crown Abimelek king. So they went and did a pretty horrendous act. They killed 70 of of Gideon's sons. So, I mean, can you imagine? You had someone that was good to Israel, that led them. He had a lot of flaws, and he kind of led them into a apostate state again where they were distant from God. And this is the kind of people he bred. That's what his leadership caused. But regardless of it, he did rule Israel. He did keep them safe. So there's got to be some appreciation or respect, or at least you think there would be. So they go and take 70 of his sons and murder him right after he dies. It's pretty hardcore. And the thing is, where they crowned him king, they all gathered. The citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo gathered beside the great tree at the pillar in Shechem to crown Abimelek king. This tree has been mentioned before in Joshua 24:26. It's where Joshua put a copy of the law, and he, basically a reminder for Israel. He put an altar there, a reminder for Israel to remember the commandments and remember to follow God, remember what he had done for them. So it's just poetic. Poetic is right next to this reminder of the law and what they'd done and how God saved them from it. They decided to murder 70 people, 70 innocent people of God's deliverer that delivered them from evil. And I mean, it's just gotta be weird. They're like naming him king, but if they would have looked over, there's a law of God. It's pretty hypocritical and it's pretty almost poetic. It's like I can't believe you guys didn't just look over and be like, wow, we messed up, we're doing wrong, we shouldn't be doing this, or have some conviction. But that's how far their hearts were from God. When you get further away from God, it's harder to have those convictions inside of you. So you can be reminded, you can be reading your word daily, and you could be just kind of going through the motions, but if you're not connecting with God, building a relationship with God, it's just words, and you end up tending not to use it appropriately, or you might just miss out on the bigger picture of things. And these guys definitely missed out on the bigger picture. How do you feel about that one?
I agree. They missed out completely. It's
Yeah.
just sad.
Yeah, it is sad too, and like, and what a brother. I'm assuming he wasn't raised with all 70 of these brothers, and who knows how many years they were apart from each other.
He
But
was the son of the concubine, right?
yep,
And so his mother was pagan, or what was it?
yeah, she was. They were pagan, and a lot of Israel at this point has fallen away from the monotheistic worship of Yahweh. They've kind of fallen away from worshiping the one true God. They've moved back towards the pagan things, and kind of Gideon set that up with his ephod. They kind of had a setup for oogling the pretty things with the golden ephod instead of understanding what the ephod was supposed to be for and what it was supposed to represent. Now they just had something pretty to look at and made the ephod the center of the worship instead of just understanding what the representation was. So, and this, like I said, this is what happens with people whose hearts are shrunk like that. It's like it's easy for them to find evil. They're looking for it, and it's really easy to commit it, even in the name of something good. I mean, these guys, maybe they didn't know they were doing something bad. They should have. Maybe in some way they justified it with their faith or their law. Who knows? But what they did was wrong, and they should never have done this to him. So when Jonathan was told about this, he's the kid that survived, the youngest son of Drubbable. Jonathan was told this. He climbed up to the top of Mount Gerizim and shouted at them, "Listen, my citizens of Shechem, so that God may listen to you. One day the trees went out to anoint a king for themselves. They said to the olive tree, 'Be our king.' But the olive tree answered, 'Should I give up my oil, which both gods and humans are honored, to hold sway over the trees?' Next the tree said to the fig tree, 'Come be our king.' But the fig tree replied, 'Should I give up my fruit, so good and sweet, to hold sway over the trees?' Then the tree said to the vine, 'Come be our king.' But the vine answered, 'Should I give up my wine, which cheers both gods and humans, to hold sway over the trees?' Finally all the trees said to the thorn bush, 'Come and be our king.' The thorn bush said to the trees, 'If you really want to anoint me king over you, come take refuge in my shade. But if not, then let fire come out from the thorn bush and consume the cedars of Lebanon.' Have you acted honorably and in a good faith by making Abimelek king? Have you been fair to Jerubbabel and his family? Have you treated him as he deserves? Remember that my father fought for you and risked his life to rescue you from the hands of Midian. But you today have revolted against my father's family. You have murdered his 70 sons on a single stone and have made Abimelek, the son of his female slave, king over the citizens of Shechem because he's related to you. So have you acted honorably in good faith towards Jeroboam and his family today? If you have, may Abimelek be your joy, and may you be his too. But if you have not, let fire come out from Abimelek and consume you, the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo, and let fire come from you, the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo, and consume Abimelek." So what's interesting is where he's standing at Mount Gerizim in Deuteronomy 11:29 and Deuteronomy 27:11 through 26. It's a place where Moses went and gave the blessings over Israel and curses. And this is the same place that Jotham is standing right now. So there's all this history, like really rich history for the Israel people in these areas. And this is these moments where altars were set up, where the law was being left. These mountains were named and remembered because it's supposed to bring that remembrance. Like, wait a minute, this is the same place God brought us blessings and curses, and these are moments that should be remembered. And even though these areas and these monuments and their own history is right in front of them, these people are acting selfishly and against God and acting out against the God who saved them. When it comes to this curse, he's basically saying, you guys wanted a king so bad. You wanted someone to have rule over you. You searched and you searched trying to find someone to fill that spot. And finally, when someone kind of filled that spot, you just took him at his word and did what he said without even really thinking what his intentions are. I mean, Abimelek wasn't a king. He wasn't a leader. And you'll see that as we read. And he wanted them to take refuge in my shade. Thorn bushes don't have shade. In fact, the only thing thorn bushes were good for was kindling fire back in those days. So all Abimelek is a kindling of fire. He only is someone to stir the pot and to change things up, but he's not a leader, and he's not going to help them in any way, shape, or form, as we'll see. Anything you feel about that, my love?
No.
It's all right. Still recovering from the sickness, so I told her she's got to talk this time, though. You gotta back me up here. You're fine with it. Then Joshua fled, escaping to Beer, and he lived there because he was afraid of his brother Abimelek. And we never really hear from Jotham again. Luckily, he made it out. That's got to be pretty traumatic that you had 70 brothers killed like that. So, okay. After Abimelek had governed Israel for 3 years, God stirred up animosity between Abimelek and the citizens of Shechem, so that they acted treacherously against Abimelek. God did this in order that the crime against Zerubbabel's 70 sons, the shedding of their blood, might be avenged on their brother Abimelek and on the citizens of Shechem who had helped him murder his brothers. In opposition to him, these cities of Shechem set men on the hilltops to ambush and rob everyone who passed by, and this was reported to Abimelek. So there's obviously like some kind of political nonsense going on where he's ruled for 3 years. Maybe he didn't follow through with the promises he made them. Maybe that they're not being prosperous because of his leadership. There's obviously a lot of tension here. You know, when you don't have good leadership, it shows everywhere. There's discontent, there's people arguing, there's plotting, there's a lot of weird things going on. And I don't know, these people decided to block up the roads. Maybe he had too much taxes and they robbed everyone who came through that he was allowing through to benefit themselves. So that's kind of like the landscape of what's going on. So these people are already really mad at Abimelek, which rightfully so, but again, they brought it on themselves. And this is God's plan to basically follow through with the curse that was on top of Mount Gerizim by Jotham. So now Gaal, son of Ebed, moved with his clan into Shechem, and the citizens put their confidence in him. After they had gone out in the fields and gathered the grapes and trodden them, they had a festival in the temple of their God. While they were eating and drinking, they cursed Abimelek. Then Gaal, son of Ebed, said, "Who is Abimelek, and why should we Shechemites be subject to him? Isn't he Jerubbabel's son, and isn't Zebul his deputy? Serve the family of Hamor, Shechem's father. Why should we serve Abimelek? If only the people were under my command, I would get rid of him. I would say to Abimelek, call out your whole army." So, first of all, he's talking some poo-poo. He's talking some mad stuff. He's drinking. He's getting kind of boisterous. He's like, I don't care who this dude is. Bring him here. You think he can take me on? He's basically shooting off his mouth and cashing a check that he can't afford, which we're going to find soon, too. And there's a lot of people that in your life. There's a lot of big talkers. There's people who can talk and they can back it up. There's people who don't talk and can walk it all day. And there's people who talk and can't walk, you know, and he's definitely the last of those. He's the one who can talk and he can't walk it. He can talk it and it sounds good and he can manipulate and he can connive and he can get people on his side, but this ends pretty quick for him. So, and you know, it's crazy is he's talking poo-poo about Abimelek, but then he's also talking stuff about Zebul, his deputy. And this Zebul guy is there, so I don't know if he realizes that this guy's around or he's in the same crowd of people, but this word gets back to him, and he's not happy about it, you know. And that's another thing too is when you say something about somebody, you don't know if it's going to get back to them, so just don't say it. Like, don't put yourself in those situations. Like, first of all, as Christians, we shouldn't be talking about other people, like that. But if it's not something you're willing to like confront them personally about, probably don't say it. You know, don't say it to other people, because even if your intentions are good, like you just want to bring up something that like, man, this guy really needs to make change, and like this is the mistakes he's making. You know, the next person that tells it, like the telephone game, it gets different and different. Like, no one was talking poo-poo about you, man. He had this to say and that to say, and you know, and then this person's coming at me or has some kind of animosity against me that should have never been there. And I can only say that because I've been in those shoes before, because I've used my mouth and I've fired off and I've said things I shouldn't have, and people probably heard things I said that wasn't intended to be hurtful, wasn't intended to be talking about them behind their backs, but some of it had good intentions, and it gets back and it's like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. I'd rather, if I don't have nothing nice to say, keep it to myself. If I have something that I need to confront and tell them, then I'm going to confront and tell them and not worry about telling other people. And unfortunately, in this case, that's exactly what this guy is doing. Feeling anything on that? Or?
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, daughter's crying for something there.
I was actually going to say, when I was a teenager, I had...
I'll be right back, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, one of our kiddos. When I was a teenager, I actually was talking on the phone with a cousin, and she was going through some hard time, and I started to say some stuff about an aunt that I should have never said. And that stuff that I said got back to my aunt, and it was just really hard to like have like, I had to explain what I said, and just having to see that hurt inflicted on her by the words I said that I truly didn't mean, and I should have never said. And but also like I had to apologize. But even after, it still created like room for like there was a distance from now on.
I feel like I missed a good story.
Sorry if
I can't riff off of that, but it's all right. Go ahead, continue.
No, I was saying that when I was a teenager, sorry, I was talking on the phone with a cousin, and I said some stuff about an aunt that ended up getting back to her because we had two phones in the house, and somebody else on the other phone picked it up and told the aunt, and I remember seeing once that aunt found out, and the pain I inflicted by those words, even though I truly didn't mean it. But even though I didn't mean it, those words still caused pain. And just as our children were just talking about today, it's like we should say kind words to people. Our words do have power, and we should be, you know, not going off, even if we're teenagers, saying mean things about our family members or neighbors or friends or people that we may not even like or may not like us. We should still be kind with our words.
And we should learn how to confront people in truth and kindness. We should be able to learn how to open up and create those conversations. Some people are really hard to talk about or talk to about those things because a lot of people don't want to take accountability for their actions. And sometimes you have to avoid those conversations. But if you're not willing to get into the conflict with them in person, then you're definitely not going to want to get into the conflict with them from third party hearsay. So the thing is like just stay in love and kindness, and if you have something to say, somebody say it directly to them. And in this case, this whole town's upset, and they're blown out of proportion. You have this guy getting drunk, boasting all these things, and now when Zabel, which is the governor of the city, who was with Abimelek, heard what Gaal, son of Ebed, said, he was very angry. Under cover, he sent messengers to Abimelek, saying, Gaal, son of Ebed, and his clan have come to Shechem and are stirring up the city against you. Now then, during the night, you and your men should come and lie and wait in the fields. In the morning at sunrise, advance against the city. When Gaal and his men came out against you, seize the opportunity to attack them. So Abimelek and all his troops set out by the night and took up and concealed positions near Shechem in 4 companies. Now Gaal, son of Ebed, had come out and was standing at the entrance of the city gate just as Abimelek and his troops came out from their hiding place. When Gaal saw them, he said to Zebul, Look, people are coming down from the tops of the mountains. Zebul replied, You mistake the shadows of the mountains for men. Gaal spoke up again, Look, people are coming down from the central hill, and a company is coming from the direction of the diviner's tree. Then Zebul said to him, Where is your big talk now, you who said, Who is Abimelek, that we should be subject to him? Aren't these the men you ridiculed? Go out and fight them. So basically he gets called out. Like, the thing is like even when people are trying to be your friend, you may feel good gossiping and talking. And people are like, yeah, you're right. But you never know what their intentions are. They may be trying to feed it out of you because they're just trying to find out more so they can tell other people about what you said. That's why it's really important to learn how to keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth closed and learn how to deal with those feelings. Give them to God. Give those to God, and don't run and just say all these things about how you dislike somebody all the time. And even if you have said something in the past, learn how to admit fault. I should have never said that. And I was really sorry for saying that because I was emotional and I just shouldn't have. And that's not how I really feel. That's how I felt at the time. Learn to apologize to the people you've talked to. Learn to be able to confront them. If you can't confront them when you're mad at them, learn how to confront them when it's time for you to apologize and take accountability for what you've done. Learn to have those open conversations. To admit fault. It's like that's one thing I love about the Christian walk is it forces you to take accountability. So when someone comes to me, typically, and they say, you know what, you've been doing this, and this, I think about it. I'm not going to try to explain it away. I'm not going to try to sit there and like dice into it and try to justify what I did to this person. I'd rather just accept it. Like, you know what, you're right, I did do that, and I apologize, and I shouldn't have done that. And start with the apology, then tell them the reasoning if it need be. This is why I did that. It doesn't make it okay. this is what was going through my mind. This is what was going through on at the time, and I should have still never done that. And you're right, and that's not the way I feel. It's just the way I felt with all those emotions mixed into it. And in this right here, this is what the other side of that leads to. When you can't take accountability and you got to stand on pride and you got to say things and you're bragging and boasting and doing what makes you feel good. It makes your flesh feel good, but man, it really sinks your soul into a pit. It really sinks you into this dark pit and abyss that just is harmful. And this guy's pride, got him there. So it said, Gaal led out the citizens of Shechem and fought against Abimelek. Abimelek chased them all the way to the entrance of the gate, and many were killed as they fled. Then Abimelek stayed in Arumah, and Zebul drove Gaal and his clans out of Shechem. So he survived. Gaal did. The guy with the big mouth. He survived. He got the heck out of there. He had to get out of Dodge real quick. And, at least he got to survive. A lot of people died because of his mouth.
Yeah.
And that's something he's going to have to live with. It's like, and that's another thing about us, too, is like sometimes, we may get away scot-free with the things we said, but maybe we're hurting somebody else, or maybe somebody else is getting hurt because of it, and they're having to deal with the repercussions. So it's just something, a warning as a Christian is like, watch what you say and say what you mean. Say what you mean in a kind and loving way. Like, you don't want to say things that you don't want getting around other people. You have your close group of family, like my wife. I can confide in my wife. I can tell her what's bothering me. That means I don't have to tell my coworkers. That means I don't have to tell my uncle. That means I don't have to tell my best friends. I mean, I got my wife here that I can confide in, and we can bring it before God. And that's how you should be doing it. God is your go-to. Confide in your wife. Confide in the trusted person. And the reason I can confide in my wife, she knows where I'm coming from. She knows I don't mean what I say sometimes. She knows that I can be a little emotional when I look at things right away. And when she knows those things about you, she can help you work through it. She can be like, okay, yeah, he's upset now. Yeah, he's saying this. Give him like 10 minutes of ranting, and it's going to get out of the system. He's going to start picking it apart and understanding it. And sometimes you need that moment, that person that's going to let you work through it, versus people are just agreeing with you, like, yeah, it is right. He shouldn't have done that. Yeah, it's cool, man. Yeah, I don't like that guy either. And they start.
And it just leads to destruction.
Yeah, it's just like a explosive ticking time bomb that people are putting more dynamite on. And you want to surround yourself with people, and that's one thing I love about the Christian walk and the Christian circles, is when people are truly committed to walking with Christ, they understand that, and they're like, I'm going to help you work through this. I get it, you're upset, and sometimes they can confront you in truth and love too, like, brother, I know that you're not just innocent in this whole situation. I know you've been doing things too. I can't control what other people do. The only thing I control is what I do, and maybe that's where I should start first. I need to start controlling how I react. I need to start controlling how I speak, how I think, the way I meditate on these same things. I can change the way that I internalize that into a positive thing, and I can express my venting to my trusted wife, and she can help me work through it, or my group of really close friends I know are going to help me see it in a better light, and that's going to help me benefit my mindset moving forward. And this whole community knows nothing about that because they've been living so far apart from God. And I can tell you something, I feel conviction consistently for the way I speak. And, I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I joke around with all my guys, that I worked with, and they've become really close friends of mine. And like where I'm at right now, my job, it still closely works with these guys. And sometimes my new coworkers are like, man, why do you call them names? I have nicknames for everybody, and I talk positive jokes about everybody. Like, I always have something to say about one of them in some funny way. Like, man, I'm surprised these people let you talk to them like that. But the reason is because they know I respect them. They know they've had those one-on-one conversations. They know how I really feel. And these jokes between us are just like this surface level, like, when they make fun of me being short and bald. I mean, I can't deny it. I'm short and I'm bald. And so we kind of have like little jabs we take at each other as friends. And, so when I was sitting down with one of these friends, I was kind of explaining that to him, that conversation I had with my new coworker. And he says, yeah, I really like that you tell it how it is. He said, but I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes your jokes are like daggers. And I came to that realization earlier in this week. I was having a conversation, everyone was kind of riled up and talking, and out of nowhere, without my brain even being able to comprehend what I was about to say, I said something really stupid, and it caused someone I know to cry, and they were a little upset. They thought it was funny, but at the same time, I could tell it hurt. I don't know why I said that. I mean, I was instantly convicted, like I messed up, and like I'd let myself get into that mindset, and I let myself roll down that hill, and that's the result of it. And that's a small consequence in a bigger scheme of things, and I'm thankful that I was able to kind of reconcile that. But that's where that mindset can lead you. That's what those kind of things can do for you. If you don't keep in track with God, and like that curse falls on you and you're putting it on yourself. You don't have somebody standing on the hill yelling at you. You put it on yourself because you're living in that. Best thing to do is turn to God right away and find what He wants you to do in those situations. Find out what He's trying to teach you. This situation isn't for me to complain about. This situation is for me to evaluate and see what I can learn from it and how this is going to change me moving forward. So, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think that's perfect.
All right. So, um, he got chased out. He's out. The next day, the people of Shechem went out into the fields, and this was reported to Abimelek. So he took his men, divided them into 3 companies, and set out ambush in the fields. So these people went back to work like, maybe he doesn't know we were involved. But no, he knew. They tried to go back to work like nothing happened. They're like, we're still here. He won't know it was us that helped stir this guy up. But he knew. So he took his men, divided them in 3 companies, and set an ambush in the fields. When he saw the people coming out of the city, he rose to attack them. Abimelek and the companies with him rushed forward to a position to the entrance of the gate. Then 2 companies attacked those in the field and struck them down. All that day Abimelek pressed his attack against the city until he had captured it and killed its people. Then he destroyed the city and scattered salt all over it, which means nothing will grow there for quite some time. We put salt all over it, nothing's even going to grow there. Like, it's going to be a desolate, destroyed place. I mean, he absolutely decimated this area. The same people that he was telling, yeah, I'll be your king, I'm your relative. Like, I'll do this for you if you help me with this and you make me king. You give me power, that's what I'm going to do for you. The same person who made that promise is now,
3 years later.
yeah, 3 years later, desolating the land, just destroying it. On hearing this, the citizens in the tower of Shechem went into the stronghold of the temple of El Berith. When Abimelech heard this, they had assembled there. He and all his men went up to Mount Zalmon. He took an axe and cut off some of the branches, which he lifted to his shoulders. He ordered the men to do the same. Quick, do what you have seen me do. So all the men cut branches and followed Abimelech. They piled them up against the stronghold and set it on fire with people still inside. So all the people of the tower of Shechem, about 2,000 men and women, also died. So, what did it say he was? A thorn bush? What are thorn bushes good for? Kindling fire. It's like, that's all he was. He was a worthless man, and this is exactly it. Thorn bushes are worthless. They kindle fire. They're fire starters. This is a worthless man. He did no good for these people. He desolated their land. He set them ablaze. That's all that their king did for them. And that's what they decided to kill 70 men for. Their selfish action that, they were like, yeah, we're going to get something out of this. This is what it led them to. You didn't get anything out of it. You got killed. You got set on fire and burned alive. Men and women did. You put everyone down. Your whole family had to be brought down to the grave because of some silly decision you guys decided to make because you couldn't turn to the Lord and seek Him. The law was right there, guys. It was right there at the tree.
Yeah.
Like, you're looking at your king, like, hey, we got a king, and over there it's like, we got the king over here. They didn't want to look over at the law. They didn't want to even see that. So
I think that's even good to remember in our lives that it's easy to go about our days and doing things that are pleasing to ourselves, or we want to watch shows, we want to be on our phones, we want to, go shopping, or whatever things are pleasing or bringing pleasing to you, but you're not turning to God, and God's right there like, hey, I want a relationship with you, I want to talk to you, I want to hear from you. I want you to learn. I want you to grow in wisdom and knowledge. And your Bible's just sitting there, not being touched. I think in that same way, that's kind of the same.
Well, this is a big scale battle. So this is a huge scale battle. There's a lot of principles that are being waged in this battle of the rights and the wrongs and what they're supposed to be doing. So you got to understand is like everything we do is on the small scale. So these same principles and battles are going on in our life. And sometimes it's hard for us to see. We can look at this and be like, what a fool. What an idiot. This guy's a loser. But then again, it's like that loser is in us too. That idiot is in us. And like these same principles that are being ignored that led him to these decisions that led to this, they ended up, hurry up. Hurry up. She wants a hug. She's supposed to be in bed. All right, quick hug, lady. Love you to pieces. Go lay down, finish your quiet time. Go, go, go. Careful, Missy. Don't run. Thank you. But these same principles in our life, and there's a war being waged in our days, our daily life, our weekly life, our yearly life, that is these same principles, and we often ignore it, even though we hold the same qualities as even maybe Abimelech or whatever the case is. That's a fun word to say, Abimelech. I don't know why that's so fun to say.
What
Such
was
a
what was David's son name that was chasing after him?
Absalom.
And they almost sound so similar.
Yeah,
Absalom,
close. That's
Abimelech.
also a fun word to say, though. You know. So next, Abimelech went to Thebez and besieged it and captured it. Inside the city, however, was a strong tower to which all the men and women, all the people of the city had fled. They had all locked themselves in and climbed up the tower roof. Abimelech went to the tower and attacked it, but as he approached the entrance of the tower to set it on fire, a woman dropped the upper millstone on his head and cracked his skull. Hurriedly he called to his armor bearer, "Draw your sword and kill me, so they can't say a woman killed him." So a servant ran him through and he died. When the Israelites saw Abimelech was dead, they went home. Thus God repaid the wickedness that Abimelech had done to his father by murdering his 70 brothers. God also made the people of Shechem pay for all their wickedness. The curse of Jotham, the son of Jeroboam, came on them. So here's the deal: is like he tries it again. This time they're kind of prepared for him. They drop a millstone on his head, bam, crack his skull open. He's like, "Quick, kill me! I don't want to be known for being killed by a woman." But let's be honest, she did kill him. Like, even though he was ran through the sword that finished him off, he was dead either way. And what he didn't want to be remembered for is printed right there in our Bibles. And not only that, as we can see, his mistakes start to finish, and at least the ones that it tells us about. And so everything that he was worried about came to pass. Everything that he was afraid of right then and there. So, oh, quick, hurry! I don't want to be known for this. Hey, you're known for it, my guy. Sorry. But that's just what those lead to. Those choices, those principles that you fight against, the ignoring of God, the self-seeking, seeking the flesh, grasping for power. Like, it may look good, and from the outside view as a Christian, you might see somebody who's like, why is this person like being risen to this level? Why do they get this? And as a Christian, I don't. That's like, I'm God. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Why can't I get this? But there's a reason they're there, and there's a lesson and a principle being a war being waged that they're having to deal with, and eventually everything comes back on you. When you do people wrong, it comes back on you. Whether people want to accept that or not, the truth is we see it all the time. Sometimes it takes 10 years, sometimes it takes 20, sometimes it takes almost a whole lifetime. And even if they get their whole lifetime without having to have um, the payback for all their things, guess what? You're meeting God at the end. So then you can deal with God at that point in time, and uh, it's just a very dangerous path to go down. It's a dangerous path to go down. The good news is we all fall short of God. We all are subject to these behaviors because we're human and we're fallen. But with Jesus Christ, you can be saved from that. Jesus already took the penalty of death, and he's given you that free gift. He's given you righteousness. And when you accept Jesus Christ into your life, he gives you the power to overcome these weaknesses. Not that you're ever going to stop doing them 100%. There might be times where you fall back into it, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be judged for it now. It means that you can have the mindset and the acknowledgement to know when you're doing it and turn away from those actions. So, for myself, I know that when I'm starting to drift away from God, something happens in my life every time. And it's like, I don't understand. I don't know how I see it coming. So I'm in the car driving. I start changing the radio stations to more modern music instead of Christian music. And sometimes it's like I just want to hear a more upbeat song or more like one that I know. So I put it on, but then eventually that leads to something else, and then the type of music I'm listening to starts to shape my day, shape my personality, and I feel myself distancing from God. That's usually, for me, the first sign that something's going on in my life I'm not addressing right. There's something that's making me not want to listen to Christian music because there's something in my life that I need to confront myself with, that I need to take accountability for. And typically, I'm like, yeah, forgive me, God, forgive me. And God does. And I'm like, oh, that was cool. But then I do it again. And this time it's like, well, God forgave me. And then I forget to ask. I forget to bring it to God. I just hold on to it. And then all of a sudden, like when I listen to Christian music, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. And I feel so convicted. I'm like, yeah, let's change the station. And I start listening to something else. And then I start going down that path. And then all of a sudden, I'm watching different TV shows. Or I'm stuck watching YouTube shorts. And my algorithm has changed to like, just get me into negative moods and whatnot. And that's a sign I need to turn back to God. And like eventually I get to that point where I'm like, okay, I should have acknowledged this at the beginning. I can't believe I couldn't acknowledge it at first. I didn't even realize it, even though I know that's the first sign. I always tell myself like, nah, this is just, you just want to listen to music. That's all you want to do. You just want to listen to a different song. But then in all honesty, it's usually because I'm dealing with something on the inside. And at this point in time, I don't like being confronted with my sin. And when I draw close to God, it confronts me with it. It forces me to take accountability. And sometimes it hurts. Sometimes you just got to find the grace in taking accountability for what you did. So, anything you want to add to that?
I think just like I think one thing that always comes to my mind is like where it says in Psalms, do not. I think it's Psalms or maybe Proverbs, one of them. about not sitting with mockers, and I think it's very good that we watch our circle, that we're centering ourselves with people who put Jesus at the center. And if we're not, then it starts leading us down a path that is not good and not healthy. And yeah.
Yeah, you're supposed to be salt and light. You're supposed to light up darkness, and salt was used to preserve meat. So you're trying to preserve the good qualities in things, trying to preserve the goodness in the world. When you're in a circle with mockers, they should be being preserved. Their goodness should be preserved. You should be picking up the bad stuff. You shouldn't be rotting. So when you find yourself in that situation, surrounded by mockers, and you're not able to share the light or the gospel or the salt that God has given you, then you're in a bad boat, and it's definitely something you should look into and seek God and find a way that He wants you to navigate the situation. I can't tell you what's right or wrong in those situations necessarily, but I know there's principles that God has given us messages of that we can turn to solve that. So that was the message for today. I just want everyone to remember that Jesus loves you, and we hope everyone's having a blessed day. See you later.